of things here. Bear with me. And Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. If you're in Austin, Texas, say hello to Uncle Dale. Remember, if you see him, rub his Power Stash for good luck right through the new year. Hello there, Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. Nice to see you. Marvin, good to see you here again. Dirty Filth, the lovely Tammy Finnegan. Enzo, how you doing? Ann B, gorgeous Jenny, nice to have you both here. Papa Willie, how you doing, bud? And where are we here on the roll call? And let's see here. We're moving on down. We may run out of time here. Mr. Grey Owl, nice to have you at Spaced Out Radio. Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness. Jack Clark, nice to see you all. And, excuse me. Let's see here. Lots of conversation. Open-minded. Thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. We're going to have to leave it right there on the roll call because we do got to get going here. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much to those who help out. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell. And make sure that you get things going that way. Also with the Super Chat, Adam Lane, thank you so much. Let's do a favor here for me, because it's time to rock. It's time to roll. It's time to get the show going. Horns up. Here comes Bumblefoot. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Some call Mick West the bad man of ufology. Some call him the ultimate truth seeker. Some call him a non-believer and skeptic to the UFO field. And some call him just a real pain in the ass. But whatever you think of Mick West, the man has been the face of the other side of ufology when it comes to pointing out inconsistencies in not only UFOs, but both government and eyewitness claims. Mick considers himself a debunker, focusing on investigating and explaining conspiracy theories such as UFOs, chemtrails, and false flags. His website is mickwest.com, and this is his first time on this show, so we're very proud to have Mick here. Thank you so much, Mick, for coming on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Thank you, Dave. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Now, for you, you have, you're an expat from Britain, so welcome from the Commonwealth and everything like that. I don't even know why I say that, but I always do to our British and Australian guests. But I want to say a big thank you because, I mean, you're someone who has literally been in a UFO boxing match for pretty much the last couple of years here. That's a fight that not a lot of people would want. Before we get deep into that, let's learn a little bit about you. What intrigues you about conspiracy theories and UFOs?
Ooh, what intrigues me? It's a big topic because there's a whole bunch of different things in conspiracy theories, and it kind of like there's a whole trajectory through my life that has led me to this point, and it kind of started in a way with UFOs because back when I was just a kid, 10 years old or so, I was reading about things like UFOs and ghosts and things like that. And then I kind of developed into an interest in science fiction and then an interest in science itself. And I studied science at school and then got into computer programming. And then kind of years later, kind of got interested in the more esoteric topics again and interested in investigating them because I got like more of a stronger science background just from the stuff I'd been doing at school and the stuff I used at work, the math and the physics and things like that. And I just find it really interesting to study something that's a mystery and try to figure out what's actually going on. And not just figure things out, but also, the debunking aspect. What that's about really is if somebody makes a claim about something and I see that isn't correct, and then I can kind of like explain why that isn't correct. That's kind of fun as well, because that's part of the whole figuring things out. So it's a topic I've always been interested in, kind of originally more for, I guess, esoteric reasons back when I was a kid, and now more for scientific reasons and because I enjoy looking at it.
Now, for you, you have a computer and tech background, and you spent the majority of your life creating a lot of the video games that we know of from our childhood. And I'm going to say thank you right off the bat for a lot of my fun as a kid, because, I just, played a lot of those video games back then growing up. But for you, going from the imagination that it takes to create such content for video games, and I can just imagine what it's like behind the scenes. No, I can't, because I'm literally computer illiterate when it comes to things like that, and program illiterate. But you have to have a little bit of imagination in order to be creative and to learn how the mind works and thinks in order to put that on a computer screen, I would assume.
Sure. And a lot of that is like learning how the mind works and things, like you say. It's trying to figure out how people will perceive things. Like when you put a certain image on screen, how are people going to like feel about it, and how will it react to when they press a certain button, and how do you make it so that everything seems natural? And a lot of that kind of actually came in useful later when I'm analyzing videos, because in a way it's like doing the same thing backwards. When I put something on the screen in a video game, like I did the Tony Hawk Pro Skater video games, when you put like a guy on a skateboard and he kicks a certain way and he jumps a certain way, you got to kind of know how that appears and how it feels to the person looking at it. And when you're investigating a case that's based on how someone perceives something, it's really useful to understand the underlying mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes, the actual physics about how things move, and about how cameras work, and about how 3D transforms work and things like that. And then the imagination side of things. Yeah, I mean, I was more of a tech guy, but I did work as a game designer as well as a programmer. One of the games that I worked on called Apocalypse was a game that was mostly designed by me, and that creative aspect of it, I think, is kind of useful in understanding the stories that exist in the various fields that I'm looking at. You think of ufology, it's not just simply science. It has kind of a history and in some ways a mythology that has grown up over the years of things that happen, and you can argue about whether that mythology is based on reality or not, or how much of it is based on reality. But it's a mythology that resonates with people because there are certain timeless themes in storytelling, like people coming from a far-off place to make the world a better place is a theme. In mythology, you get these beings coming in, or you get a figure coming in, and then someone becoming some kind of savior. So the mythological elements play a role in how we tell the stories about things that may or may not be real.
When did you start looking into UFOs? You mentioned you had a little bit of a keen interest as a child, but when did you decide to start seriously looking into this subject?
Well, it kind of crept up on me in a way. I was interested in this one conspiracy theory called chemtrails, which you've probably heard of. I mean, most people who are familiar with strange things like UFOs are familiar with other strange things. So chemtrails is just the theory that we're being sprayed by things from planes, and these white lines that appear behind planes are supposedly something being sprayed. And I got interested in that because I was learning to fly at the time. I just kind of retired from Neversoft, and I was, just following my dreams of learning to fly, which is something I'd always wanted to do as a kid. And I got interested in chemtrails because it was just related to stuff I was doing, like the flying and the aviation weather stuff that we had to know about. And gradually, there was kind of a shift because, I did all the chemtrail stuff and kind of debunking the various claims about chemtrails. And a lot of that was stuff like identifying planes, because people would point to a plane in the sky and they would say, that's a mysterious government plane spraying us with poison. And I'd look at it and analyze the video, whatever it was, and say, no, that's Alaska Flight 27 from Seattle to LA, and explain what's going on. And then I get a bit of a crossover. People would start sending me UFO videos because they knew that I could identify planes. So I think where it really kind of flipped over was around 2016, I think it was, when there was this case from Chile, the Chilean Navy UFO case.
I remember that. And
that was a true hybrid of my interest because it had a contrail in it. And someone sent me the tweet. I think Leslie Keane had written this story in the Huffington Post about this UFO. And someone sent me the link to it on Twitter and said, is this a plane leaving a contrail? And I looked at it, and because I was a contrail aficionado, I recognized it as being a plane leaving a contrail, and then spent a couple of days trying to figure out what plane it was, and had a lot of help from other people on Debunk, my website, and on Facebook and even on Twitter. There was lots. It was many hands make light work. So that was my first big UFO case. I think I'd done a whole bunch of little things before that. And then the year after that was the 3 Navy videos that came out, and that got a lot of interest, and that was really a fascinating set of videos to really dig into, and I think that really kind of cemented my interest in the topic.
Now, for you, did you always come into this topic looking to be the bad guy, looking to be the guy who would be the critical voice of what is going on? Because I want to get personal with you tonight. I've heard a lot of interviews with you, Mick, and you're a very stoic speaker. You're very well worded and very presentable. But I don't think a lot of people who are going at you on social media really understand who the person is. And I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. For you, like I said, when you were going into this a little bit, did you want to be that bad guy? Did you want to have that reputation?
No, I did not want to be the bad guy, and I don't think I am the bad guy. I think you kind of rub people the wrong way when they feel that you are attacking their beliefs. For some people, it's deeply personal. People who are experiencers have had something that only they can really comprehend, really understand what happened to them, because it's a very personal experience.
True.
And they think they had they saw something, or they felt something, or they had an encounter with something, and maybe they didn't have any video of it. Maybe there was nobody else there, and only they know about it. And so they know from a personal perspective that it's real. Now, I don't know whether it's real or not, because I wasn't there when it happened, so I don't know whether this person, the experiencer, made a mistake about what they perceived, or if something else happened that isn't what they actually eventually remembered happening. So I don't know that, and all I can do is look at other cases that have things like video and investigate them, and you try to figure out if I can determine anything about those cases. Is this particular thing, this Navy UFO, actually a UFO, or is it a plane that we can identify? And so I end up, kind of getting some hits on those. And so some of those I will be able to debunk, and I'll be able to explain them. But then people kind of take that, and then they extrapolate it to everything else, and they say, well, just because you've debunked these cases, it doesn't mean that what I experienced isn't real, or what all these other people experience isn't real, or all this other evidence isn't real. And that's true. But people present what I'm doing as if I'm trying to invalidate all these other things. And I'm not. I'm not trying to say, this isn't true, therefore all this stuff isn't true. I'm saying, this one set of evidence didn't pan out. It was an interesting case. I enjoyed looking into it and doing the math and solving this particular case. It doesn't necessarily tell us anything about other cases, especially ones that are very different, and especially ones where it's based on one individual's experience. So it's certainly not something I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to debunk UFOs. I'm not trying to prove that aliens haven't visited us, or aliens aren't visiting us, or something isn't happening. I'm not trying to prove that there's nothing weird going on. I'm looking at individual cases, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, I've got opinions as well. I've got opinions of what I think's actually happening overall. And if people ask me what my assessment is of the situation, then I'll tell them.
Right.
But I'm not trying to promote that point of view. I'm just trying to figure stuff out.
Okay, so what is your opinion of UFOs? Because I don't think a lot of people understand. And the one thing that I have learned, and I'm not trying to take a shot at UFO Twitter, but there's a number of people on UFO Twitter who are basing everything off of a couple hundred characters. They're not going in depth. They're asking the questions. It's basing an opinion on almost like a clickbait type site. But for Mick West, the person, do you believe in UFOs and extraterrestrials?
Well, I essentially, yes, I would say I do. But, you're asking questions like that, and it's a very broad topic. So do I believe in extraterrestrials? I think there's probably extraterrestrials somewhere in the universe. Do I think that they have visited us in the past? I wouldn't rule it out. NASA doesn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out. Do I think they're visiting us now? I think that's far less likely than having visitors in the past, and certainly far less likely than them simply existing somewhere in the galaxy or the universe. So yeah, I think aliens are probably real somewhere, but I'm an evidence-driven guy, so I don't think that we have very compelling evidence that aliens have visited us in the past. And I know a lot of people will disagree because they've all got their favorite bits of evidence for that. But based on my personal experience of the evidence that I've seen and the things that I've investigated, and the amount of times when I've investigated something and it turns out to be nothing, I don't really get the sense that the evidence is very good. Now, the other part of your question was, do I believe in UFOs? And that's a bit of a problem as well with that question. Of course I believe that there are unidentified flying objects. I see them all the time. I could probably open my window and I could see some light in the sky and not know exactly what it was. It's probably a plane. It could be, maybe it's a satellite. Maybe it's someone's flying a drone. Maybe it's an alien spaceship. You don't know. It's an unidentified flying object. Unidentified flying objects are obviously real, and we don't know what they are. And what I think is going on is a whole bunch of different things. If you look at the UAP report, came out in the middle of this year. The UAP report basically said if we manage to identify these 143 cases that we couldn't identify, they're going to go in one of these 5 categories. And you're probably familiar with them. Right? The first one was airborne clutter, stuff like birds and balloons and drones and plastic bags. The second one was atmospheric phenomena, just things you see in the sky, like clouds and maybe stars and planets and lights and inversion layers causing radar returns. The third one was foreign adversaries. The fourth one was U.S. tests of secret military tests. And the fifth one was other stuff, like basically anything that we hadn't thought of yet, which may include aliens. And I think that's the case. I think when you look at UFOs, they're going to fall into a variety of categories. And the really interesting question is, do we have something that is unambiguously interesting? Like, is it something that isn't just a light in the sky? Do we have something that we can say for sure is doing something amazing? And if the conclusion, I think, of the UAP task force was that there are some stuff that's kind of interesting, but you can't tell for sure whether it is instrument error or operator error. There's some stuff that has multiple sensors, but we don't really know if the multiple sensor stuff is doing amazing physics. So we kind of got a tantalizing set of evidence of things that kind of seem to be interesting, but we don't have this solid evidence, this ace card that is going to actually prove that there's something really interesting going on. And I think a lot of people jump the gun and they think that we do have unequivocal evidence that there's something interesting going on. But what I've been doing is just basically looking at that evidence and trying to figure out if I can figure out what things are, and if not, is it actually an interesting UFO?
What are people in ufology missing about Mick West? What are they not seeing?
Well, I think that I am not a advocate for UFOs are not aliens. I'm not a person who is trying to argue that aliens don't exist. I am someone who's trying to figure stuff out. I want to know what something is. And I perhaps have a bias in that I tend to put natural explanations at the top of the list. And this is mostly because of my experience. If I'd come into ufology and I've never looked at a single UFO case, and I start seeing all of these videos online and all these stories from the past and everything, then maybe I would have a different perspective. But I've looked at probably well over 1,000 videos, UFO videos. And you know that 95% of them are just obvious that it's a bird or it's a plane. And there's a small percentage that are more interesting, and you can't figure out what they are. And I enjoy looking at those, but they generally turn out to be nothing. And none of them have turned out to be super interesting. So, but I'm not, it sounds like I'm trying to make a case there, but that's just been my experience. I'm not someone who's dogmatically set on the course of, UFOs are not aliens. I would love it if we discovered aliens. That would be great. It'd be really interesting. People say, Mick, what are you going to do if, the aliens land on the White House lawn? I'd be just as interested as everybody else. And, who cares about whether I was wrong in my assessment in the past? It wouldn't really matter. Let's just move on and study these interesting aliens. So, I'd love if aliens were real. And I don't care what the outcome is of the investigation. I just want to know what things actually are.
I know that you are, and just hearing those words, I know that you are a believer of some sort. You want to believe, just like the poster board says, but there has to be, in your case, what you're saying, legitimate evidence that, according to your own skepticism, you haven't seen yet, correct? Because we got about 90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, people ask, what would be the evidence that would convince me? And I don't think it would be super complicated. We got lots of videos of UFOs, but they're mostly just lights in the sky. If we could just get two cameras at the same time, from half a mile apart, filming the same thing, and that thing actually making movements that are contrary to current technology, that's the type of evidence that would convince me. It wouldn't actually take much to make it unambiguously interesting, and I think we've been basing people base a lot of their UFO beliefs on evidence that's just it's a single sensor evidence. Really, people talk about this multi-sensor evidence, but where is it? We don't actually have this multi-sensor evidence. But I really would be fine with some evidence demonstrating that there's something amazing going on, and if people have it, let's bring it and let's look at it. But I haven't been convinced yet.
Well, we're going to see what else we could get out of you here, as we got another 2 hours with Mick West tonight on Spaced Out Radio. People love him, people hate him, people want to shake him, but you know what? He's a man of his own conviction, and We're going to find out what he knows, what he believes when we come back on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Mick is an author as well. You can check out his website by going to mickwest.com. And I'm telling you, we're going to get to your questions in the audience in hour number 2. So if you're in our chat room, you can check it out and put your questions in capital letters. We'll get those to Mick as well. We're in for a great night of skepticism and UFOs on Spaced Out Radio. The second half hour is next. All right, we're clear.
Hey, Space Travelers. This
that,
is John Resig, founder of the
So
Chime
far,
and
so
Chime
good.
Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know...
Oh, stop already. So far, so good, man. That was a solid first half hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to answer people's questions as well. So anybody in the chat who wants to, you can ask me anything. That's what I always tell people, because I've been asked a lot of these questions before. So I'd be happy to go over them again, though. But if anybody wants to ask me something new, that would be great too. And feel free to ask personal questions as well. I'm an open book.
Let's get to the two most important questions you're going to answer tonight. And Adam is asking, what's your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I'm against it. I'd like to have something more dinner-like for dinner. And my breakfast is usually toast, so that's not really a very good dinner.
Yeah, no, very much appreciate a high-quality and regarded answer there, because they're breakfast foods for a reason, they're titled for a reason. And these people who eat bacon and eggs and pancakes for dinner and toast, there's something loose up there, There really is. Something loose about that. And the other one, since you're 1 for 1 so far, Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Are you on Team Rock or on Team Stump?
I think it's a rock. I mean, it looks like a stump, but I think if it was a stump, there'd be lots of tree lying around.
No, there wouldn't. Over time,
it
would break down.
Did they take the tree to make
down.
A boat or something?
Well, quite possibly. That's a big boat, but now we know where Noah's Ark came from. Well, you're 1 for 2.
All right, well.
You're 1 for 2. We'll give you that. You got the most important one right.
Can't win them all.
At least you got the proper one right.
Why is there only one stump, though? I mean, there's very few towers of its type out there in the world.
We have one, not as tall, but we have one about 20 minutes away from here.
There's a few buttes around here in Northern California.
Yeah.
They're always right next to volcanoes, though. It's very suspicious.
I know.
Right in a volcanic area, so it's a bit of a clue,
Big trees.
I think.
These trees like it. Oh, man.
It could be.
So we got about 3 minutes to go here. By the way, Gary Voorhees and his beautiful beard say, Mick, if you holiday in Florida, let's get together for a beer or a coffee.
Sure. I don't know if I will be in Florida anytime soon, but I certainly would stop by if I was.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a conference in Florida a few years ago. It's a very nice place to visit.
That's right, Grant Roger, Lone Butte, right there. Lone Butte. That's right. I got to climb that thing this year, or in 2022. That's my goal, is to climb up to the top of it, since they don't have ATV paths going up there. So
yeah, I live in the Sierras here, so it's all there's nothing like that locally here. There's stuff up 5. If I don't drive up 5 towards Oregon, there's a bunch of buttes on the way.
The funny part for you...
They're not that tree-like, though, the ones around here. They're kind of flat.
The funny part for you is, from where you are, if you were to hop on the I-5, head north, you're literally 4 signal turns to get to my house in central British Columbia.
Yeah, it's a straight hilarious shot up there. I drove up to Oregon last week. It's last week, a couple of weeks for Thanksgiving. It's a long and boring drive.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube right there. Lester Taylor, welcome back. Jason1331, Grant from Quesnel, good to have you here. He's just north of me, about a 2 hours drive. And, Grant, how's the snow up there? You know, that's what we need to know. How's the snow? Because the highway between his place and my place can be a little sketchy at times.
Yeah, I've been trapped on I-5 in southern Oregon. There's only like one way out of Oregon from getting into California around that area. Gets snowed up.
No, I hear you there. G. West, good to see you. We got about 35 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Carla, Alicia, Gary, Wreaking Havoc, Flash Forward, 5900, Adam, and Open Minded Clarity for the amazing super chats. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. We got a lot of new listeners in our chat room so far tonight. Big thank you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. If you want SOR swag, and if you're watching on your computer, right below you is a store on our website. spacedoutradio.com is a store, and thank you to all the veterans tuning on in. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. Thank you for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight. UFOs and skepticism. Mick West is here. He's an author, researcher, skeptic, wants to get to the bottom of what's going on the UFO side from a reality perspective. But what is reality? We're going to find out. MickWest.com is his website. Mick, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And really, MickWest.com probably isn't the best website. Debunk is probably a better one to go for. But you can get there from there. So everything's listed on MickWest.com. That's just my email address, essentially.
All right.
But, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so for you, known as the skeptic of ufology, you've taken on a lot of the heavy hitters in this field, whether it's Lou Elizondo, Commander David Fravor, whether it's Chris Mellon, and many of the government people who have come out on this subject, who I would believe are in the know a little bit more than us. Why have you taken them on in such a strong stance?
Well, I call it like I see it, basically. And when people say things that I can demonstrate are verifiably false, I'm not going to say, well, you know better than me. I'm not going to say anything because I can show that something is false. Like, for example, with Lou Elizondo. He made a bunch of claims about the various Navy videos, and one in particular he still makes to this day is that the gimbal video has a glowing aura around it, which kind of signifies some kind of anti-gravity field or space warp or something like that, when it's actually just an artifact of the camera, and it looks exactly like the same aura that you get around other things in infrared video. You can look at loads of different examples, and there's even video of jets that has this thing. So, he's saying something that I know to be wrong, and he's repeating it, and he keeps repeating it. And I don't have anything personally against him. I just think that if people are saying things that are wrong, and I can figure out that they're wrong and demonstrate that they're wrong, then I should point that out. And there's a whole bunch of other things as well. David Fravor. David Fravor is a very talented individual, very highly skilled pilot. He was very senior pilot, leader of the squadron, helps train all the other pilots, and he's got lots of experience, like flying his plane and identifying other planes and things like that. But that doesn't make him 100% immune to making mistakes, and he may have made some mistakes in observation. And I don't think that just because someone has a very high skill set, it makes them immune to examination of their claims. And then Chris Mellon, he was in government. You'd think he would know things. He would have seen things, but he hasn't really given any good evidence that he really understands the videos any better than anybody else, or really that he's seen anything in addition to those videos. So I think one shouldn't be afraid of people and just simply leave them alone. Yeah, it's a mistake to just say, oh, these people are off limits because of their supposedly high position in government, or because of their amazing skills, or because they worked in a certain department or something. If they're saying things that you can demonstrate are wrong or that seem suspicious and need more evidence, then you should go and ask them about it. You should call them on it.
But the critics, to what you were saying, especially in regards to Commander David Fravor, would say, Mick, you've never been a fighter pilot, you've never been a commercial airline pilot, you don't know what it's like to be that highly trained as a naval aviator, especially a Top Gun graduate. Who are you to call out somebody of that ilk?
Yeah, but I'm not calling people out based on my experience. I'm not saying, oh, I know better than you. I'm pointing out things that people should be able to take and then go and verify. There's something that I've not actually talked to David Fravor, and I'd like to, so we can kind of hash out our actual disagreements. Because I think a lot of the time, when people respond to things I'm saying, they often respond to the wrong thing. They misinterpret what I'm saying, what my argument is, and often because it's put to them by someone who doesn't understand it, like Jeremy Corbell. He doesn't really understand the argument. So when he asks David Fravor about something, he's not really asking the right questions, and Joe Rogan isn't really asking the right questions either. So if I talk directly to him, we could thrash it out. But it's things that we can, we should be able to verify independently. Like, for example, there's the issue of the gimbal on the camera. The camera moves like this. It's up, down, left, right. It rotates and goes like this. And Fravor says that the only time the camera rotates, it does this gimbal flip, is when it moves essentially from the front of the plane to the back of the plane. Like you're tracking something that's going underneath you. Like you've got the camera on an armored car or something in a convoy, and the plane flies past it. The camera would have to go back, and it would have to flip around. But what I'm talking about is the camera flipping when it goes from left to right. And he says that doesn't happen, which from his perspective as a fighter pilot is true, because what he is someone who is really, really good, really highly skilled at using the equipment. He sees what's on the screen and is very used to what happens on the screen, and he will have seen this flip happen all the time when he tracks something that goes underneath, and he'll never see the flip happen when it goes from left to right because the system hides it from him. The flip I'm talking about is something that happens at the hardware level, something that's invisible to the pilot, something that the pilots don't need to know about. It's completely irrelevant to them, and it's been deliberately hidden from them. The only reason the system flips when it goes from front to back is because if it didn't, the image would be upside down. It's not actually the type of flip I'm talking about. When it goes from left to right, there's a hardware flip, which is completely different. These are things that are fairly complicated, but they're not things that you have to be a fighter pilot to understand. And in fact, being a fighter pilot like David Fravor might hinder your understanding of it, because you're a user of the equipment, a very highly skilled and very highly talented user of the equipment, but you're not the engineer who knows how the nuts and bolts move and how the little mirrors flip around and how the gimbal system actually works and why the image flips when it goes from one side to the other. So I'm not trying to say I know better than David Fravor. I'm saying this is what is happening. This is what is happening when you see this rotation in this video. And when Dave Fravor says it only happens this way, it's happening for this reason. Because the pilots want the image to be the right way up. So I'm not better than David Fravor at all. He's way better than me at flying planes, obviously, and way better at identifying planes and way better at using all the equipment and understanding what the equipment shows, but not necessarily better at understanding what's going under the hood in areas that he doesn't need to know about because he's not an airplane mechanic.
Okay, and I can understand that point of view, but when it comes to the Tic Tacs and what they were seeing, going back to the Nimitz incident of 2004, and Gary Voorhees was in our chat room tonight as well. When you have statistics from radar and everything that kind of came along with that, combined with multiple pilot sightings and the pilots being right there intercepting these craft, whatever they are, how do you try and debunk that? Or can you?
Well, there's a lot of different things going on there. I don't have a good answer as to what actually happened on that day. I have a variety of theories for various parts of it. And I know some people would say that's literally impossible. But I don't like to take things off the list. If something is improbable, that something happened, like there's some kind of radar glitch or something like that, or that there was some kind of observer misperception or something, it seems very unlikely. But is it literally impossible? If we're talking about the alternative being some kind of craft that is new to our understanding of physics and possibly from another world, should we just drop off every other explanation just because it doesn't seem very likely, or it seems like there's no way that guy would have made that mistake? If we're considering some extraordinary explanations for something, I think we need to keep all possible explanations on the table, because what happened was probably extraordinary. It was either an extraordinary set of coincidences, or it was an extraordinary event. That there was, some kind of craft, some kind of anti-gravity craft that was loitering and that was moving really, really rapidly. And there's lots of aspects to it as well. We're not just talking about one thing that happened that a lot of people saw. There was lots of things going on. There was several days of radar returns, and these were radar returns that Kevin Day described as, just coming down the screen from Catalina to Guadalupe Island. And then there was reports of them dropping down from above 80,000 feet. And then they send Fravor out to go have a look. He gets there, he sees something in the water, and then he sees this little tic-tac, and he goes down, and it kind of circles around him and then buzzes past him. Alex Dietrich saw something at the same time, but she has a different perception of how long the event took. She says 10 seconds, he says 5 minutes. It's difficult to reconcile, but maybe it's just different perceptions. And then later, Chad Underwood goes out and takes a video of something. And people say that it's the same thing, but it doesn't look like a regular tic-tac. It's irregular shaped. It's wider at one end than the other, and it doesn't fly up into the sky. It doesn't fly off. It kind of looks like it does, but I think that's really just the camera losing lock. And there's other people as well. I believe Gary has seen various things. He went and used the big eyes, the big telescopes. It's 20 times zoom with a fairly 20 times magnification with a fairly high field of view, very great for spotting, incoming planes and boats on the horizon, things like that. He saw some white dots off in the right direction, and those were things that showed up on the radar, and he looked at where he thought they would be, and he saw something. I think other people did the same thing. I'm not sure if it was just Gary. And these are all different things. So we're not talking about just like one event, like
I understand that.
Tic-Tac flew in, and everybody saw it. Lots of different things happened, and he might have a bunch of different explanations.
And granted, I do understand that it doesn't matter whether you're a professional or an amateur pilot or whatever your career may be. There is human error that does have to come into play with everything. But when you have multiple witnesses combined with the data, doesn't that coincide to create some sort of true answer if we are getting the truth from the United States Navy?
I think, obviously the more data we have, the better. But we don't actually have that data. We have people recalling the data, if we talk about, say, the radar things, it's primarily based on one person's recollection, which is Kevin Day. There were other people, I think, who were in the room and may have seen things, but Kevin Day is the one who really, tells the story about what happened with these radar returns and what was going on. So it's not like we have a whole bunch of independent things here. We have Kevin Day, and then we have a couple of other people who say there was something going on. Then we have people who said there was other radar data that showed something, but we don't really get the exact details, and we don't have names. They were on the people on the Hawkeye have to signed NDAs, so they can't talk about it. And then other things happened to different sets of people. Underwood and Fravor are not corroborating each other's stories because they weren't there at the same time. Fravor went out and saw something, didn't show up on the radar. He didn't have a camera. Underwood went out and you got a ping on his radar and pointed his camera in that direction and saw something with his camera. This isn't necessarily the same thing. And then you've got things like something appeared at the cap point. Is that just the radar like relocking onto something at a different position, or it could be like any number of different things. It's difficult to get one consistent narrative with lots of data, lots of sensors looking at it. So it's a patchwork story about a number of different events, and it's certainly very interesting. And I think a very large part of why we are here today is this story. The 2004 is the root of the modern UAP movement, and it's a very large part of the reason why we have the UAP task force and why we have now this UAP office from the NDAA. So it's certainly a very significant thing, and I wouldn't dismiss it. And I don't know what happened, but I don't think we have conclusive evidence that something was breaking the sound barrier without sonic booms. I don't think we have conclusive evidence that actually happened. We have people's recollection of the radar of that happening, but I don't think we have conclusive evidence. So.
But Kevin Day was a radar expert in a very highly entrusted, multi-million-dollar craft. I mean, to say that he maybe got it wrong, I understand the human error on that, but I mean, he's pretty good to go into a war zone and trusted to go into a war zone, which he has,
sure.
to find anomalies and objects coming at them in a wartime scenario.
Well, think about Kevin Day. He's a nice guy, and he's told the story over the years a number of times. When he first saw these radar contacts, he suspected that they were either something wrong with the radar, some kind of atmospheric clutter, or they were some kind of civilian thing like balloons or something like that. And he says he never really thought that they were something significant until David Fravor went out and had an encounter with the thing. And his memory isn't perfect. He tells a story about how David Fravor told him that the object did barrel rolls around his plane. And that never happened. David Fravor never said that the object did barrel rolls around him. He's quite explicit, and Kevin's told this several times, including on TV. I can't remember what the show was, Contact, I think, perhaps. And he says that when they first met the object whizzed around his plane, then shot down to the ocean, and then Fravor followed it down to the ocean. So this is the story that Kevin Day has been telling for many years. And it's wrong. He's telling a story that's inaccurate, and it's very inaccurate because it just gives a completely backwards picture of how the encounter actually happened. So, he's misremembering something, and he might have misremembered other things as well. And like I said, he didn't initially think that it was definitely something interesting. He thought that there was perhaps something wrong with the radar. This was a lot of people thought that they rebooted the system and they cleared it off and recalibrated it. Gary Voorhis will be able to tell you more about that, but there were lots of things. It wasn't this immediate thing where they thought, oh, there was a bunch of weird objects out there and we've got to send a craft out to investigate it. Yeah, a lot for days. They pretty much were thinking it's just some kind of weird glitch in the radar system.
Okay, so did you talk to other former radar operators or people who maybe designed the equipment to generalize your thoughts and opinion on what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I have talked to a variety of people. The problem is it's very hard to get people to go on the record talking about this type of thing, especially if they currently work in the industry. Because these systems, like the Spy 1 radar system that we're talking about, are essentially classified systems, and you're not supposed to talk about their capabilities. And I think even when I was talking to Gary Voorhis, he was a bit reluctant to get into some of the details, and PJ Hughes, similarly as well. So it's a problem I've had in many aspects, is that no one really wants to talk about it from a technical perspective. Someone suggested that I call Raytheon and get them to check, my ideas about the gimbal video, because they would know. And I've done that. I've contacted Raytheon. I've contacted their press office. Got no response. A friend of mine has contacted them, and they told him that they defer to the Navy in these matters. So I can't I can't get it through to anybody. I would be happy to hear input from other people who are experts in this domain, but it's very hard to get people to talk on the record. So I have, it doesn't count for much, but I have had people off the record tell me that I'm right about various aspects of this, but I can't really do very much with it, because it's people can just say I made it up, but I have talked to these people.
But people are already, without sounding disrespectful, people are already saying that you're just making this up to be a jerk and everything along those lines, because you don't, you're basically prejudging someone. Mm-hmm. It's like me, for instance, okay? When I played hockey, I'm going to use a hockey reference here. When I played hockey, I had what they call hands of stone, which means that I couldn't score a goal if the life depended on me. I could fight, but, the other part of the game came hard. And that's like comparing me to saying what Wayne Gretzky did was not difficult at all in breaking all those records. I mean, the fighter pilots are of that type of ilk, and other pilots are, and these people are well trained. So I could see where there's a lot of disconnect that people are having with your potential theories on this.
Yeah, and it's a big issue. I was writing an article about this today. I write for a Skeptic magazine, and I'm writing an article about the issues to do with eyewitness testimony. And one of the big issues is to do with experts and people who are domain experts, people who know a lot about a certain field, or they're very experienced, or they've got a lot of technical knowledge. And when you start to disagree with them, it's almost like it becomes this untouchable thing. Like the very fact that I've disagreed with them in a way proves that I'm wrong, because how could I have the temerity to say that this person might have made a mistake? And I think that's, I can understand why that happens, but it really becomes this communication challenge for me. And what I want people to know is that I'm not saying that I know better than this person. I'm not saying that I'm more of an expert. Obviously, they're way more qualified than me, if we're just talking about qualifications. But we're not saying, given this question, which person has the highest qualifications and his answer is correct. We're saying, given this question and this data and this information, what is the answer? And we don't always have to just blindly defer to experts or people who are non-experts like me. We can actually figure some things out for ourselves. There are actually questions that we can answer. We like the gimbal situation. We can actually think about what's going on with this gimbal. In the Go Fast video, like how high is this object?
Right.
We can actually do the math ourselves. So
right.
we don't have to defer. And I'm not insulting people. I'm not saying they're stupid.
Oh, I get that. I'm right just saying
there. They might be wrong.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. A great conversation tonight going on with Mick West. MickWest.com is his website. We're going to continue the UFO chatter when we return for Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, man, we're clear.
All righty.
Solid half hour, my friend. Solid half hour.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm just going to go grab another soda real quick.
Go. We got about 5.5 minutes.
5.5 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, I shall grab 2 sodas then.
Oh, why not? I'll take one.
Right.
I haven't had a. You are Americanized.
Be right back.
You are Americanized using soda. Holy cow!
I know. My friends in Britain make fun of me.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Hi, Drake. How you doing? Welcome to the channel. Little Benny Jenkins is here. Little Benny waves like this. That's what he does. Let's see. Kevin, how you doing, man? Welcome back to the channel. Let's see here. Oh, good. Hey, Ben, I do need to chat with you. If you could call me tomorrow when you're free or message me where we can chat. I got a couple things on the website. I want to announce to our audience here, since there's a lot of you here, all right, 163 of you, that I want you to book April 22nd to 24th, 2022 on your calendar. We are going to be putting on the SOR Vegas meet and greet party. It's not a conference. It's not a big slam dunk on UFO chat or anything like that. It literally is a weekend of getting away and hanging out with each other and having fun in Las Vegas. We're going to have more details coming up very, very soon on our website. Thanks to Little Benny Jenkins and his great work with Nito Creative on our website. And we'd love to have everybody there. We're going to put down a confirmation list on who's going to come, because when you show up in Vegas for our party, maybe Mick West will come too, to our Vegas party on April 22nd.
Maybe. I liked Vegas.
April 22nd to 24th. We're having a giant party in Vegas for our Spaced Out Radio listeners. It's not a conference, nothing. It is a literal 48-hour hangout session to do whatever we want and just have some fun talking UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, all the weird stuff that goes along with it. So we're gonna have confirmation. So if you're a listener and you say, "Hey, I'm going," we want a full confirmation, so that way we can give you a Spaced Out Radio gift bag as a token of our appreciation. So we got a lot of stuff going on. And Jenny, I will get some cups for the store. I promise you I will. And we'll go from there. But there will be more information on our website coming very, very soon about the Vegas party. Hey, Brazelhoff, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. And did I miss anybody else here? I don't think so. So yes, April 22nd to 24th, the SOR Vegas party. And you know what? That sunburst, what I'll do with that guitar is I will get Lynn Wallington, Big Willie, myself will autograph it, and maybe what we'll do is we'll give that away to one of our lucky listeners who arrives there. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Don't know. There are no serious plans, just getting together. Yes. So, Mick, you're invited. Everyone's invited.
I do like going to Vegas.
Yes, me too.
For a day or two.
Yes. Hi, Jonathan Davies. You weirdo. Ian wants to know, do you miss playing the part of Tony Hawk?
Yeah, it's because I look vaguely like Tony Hawk. But
is he as nice as he comes across? Did he ever get
He is. He's a lovely guy. I met him again in kind of a reunion last year, 2020, in Mammoth. There was a film festival for a documentary called Pretending I'm a Superman. And he's a wonderful person. He's just very nice to talk to, and very kind and very generous.
Seems that way. That way. Hard to believe he's in his 50s now.
Yeah, he's about the same age as me, which was it's always interesting because he was kind of growing up with me. Like, I met him first, obviously, 20 odd years ago in the late 90s, when we were making the first Tony Hawk games, and he was the same age as me back then, and we just aged together.
G. West wants to know, are you playing any video games these days? We've got about 20 seconds.
No. I'm somewhat tempted to do the new GTA Grand Theft Auto game.
All right. Simply Coco, good evening to you. Looking lovely tonight. Please tell us your drink of choice for tonight's show. We would appreciate that. And we're going to get going here. Big thank you to Jules, Ben, Daryl, Jason, Carla, Alicia, Gary, John, Open-Minded, Clarity, Adam, 5900, and Flash Forward for the Super Chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show. Hi, Jerry Dale. First time in our chat room, watching the show live. We really appreciate you coming on in. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in for the first time or regulars. We love you. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yantra. Yantra is your clam word. Yep, and your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, reach out to Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Mick West. He is considered a skeptic of UFOs and a skeptic of any type of phenomena that is weird and strange. It's not that he's not a believer. It's that he wants to get to the bottom of what is really going on. And Mick, there's a lot of people who throw out the terminology that you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in UFOs, you don't believe in the words that are being said, the experiences. I mean, there's a lot of people throwing a lot of stuff on your shoulders. You know, how do you, in the end, you are a human being. You may have an opinion, but you are a human being. How does this affect you on a personal level? Do you let it?
It did originally affect me, and people get very angry. And I must say that it's kind of surprising to me, at least it was originally, the UFO people, the UFO community, get more angry than the other conspiracy theorists. I dealt with people who think that 9/11 was an inside job and the World Trade Center was demolished with explosives and not from the planes hitting them. I deal with people who think that Sandy Hook school shooting was staged, and people who think that the government is spraying us with chemicals from planes, and I didn't really get that much hate from them, but when I started looking into UFOs, I got more. I got more hate and more, in some cases, very angry. Most people are obviously lovely, but you get some anonymous people like sending stuff to you that's, it's just not very nice. And it bothered me a bit at first, but I was actually, something that helped me understand what was going on is I asked Nick Pope about it a couple of years ago, and I said, why are UFO people so emotional? Why are they so angry? Why do I get so much more from UFO people? And he said, it's because a lot of UFO believers are people who are experiencers, people who have had some kind of personal experience of a UFO, and they believe in the phenomena because of what they have personally experienced. And so they see what I do, and what you do, he said to me, what they see what Mick West does as being an attack on them as a person, an individual attack. Whereas the other conspiracy theories, for want of a better general term, aren't based on personal experience. They're based on people looking at videos on YouTube. People believe in 9/11 being an inside job, not because they were there on the day and they saw the bombs being planted. They believe in it because they saw loose change or some other video. So it's very different to dealing with people who have some kind of personal experience. And I think it's that personal experience that makes people angry and makes people react to what I'm doing in an angry way. And when I realized that, it kind of helped me understand why I'm getting this reaction, and now it doesn't really bother me when it happens. I know some people are going to get angry at me, but in a way it's because I haven't done a good enough job of explaining myself what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to disprove their beliefs. I'm not trying to prove that aliens don't exist or that experiences don't happen. I'm trying to figure out what's actually going on. And even though I don't really believe that aliens are there, that isn't my goal to prove that. My goal is to figure out what's actually happening, and if aliens are behind it or some other entity is behind it, that's what I'll go with. I'll go with the evidence. But I understand why people get angry.
Okay, well, let's stick with experiencers for a few moments. An advocate for UFO disclosure here says they're not believers, though they're knowers. Then goes on to say they've been called kooks, liars, and wignuts forever. They've also been silenced lest they lose their jobs or be put in mental wards in some cases. That's what makes people mad. It's a personal event.
Sure.
I'm a personal experiencer. I'm not a researcher. The only thing that I have going for me, if I look at it on a personal level, is I have one of these microphones in front of my faces here that I went to school for to become a journalist on radio. So I mean, there's a lot of people who take this personally because they haven't had the ability to A, find out the answers, B, find out the major question, why me? And this is where it lights an internal fire. So do you think your attitude towards this, and maybe attitude is too strong a word, but do you think your attitude towards this subject would be different if you had your own personal encounter?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because if something had happened to me, that would be, for me, a solid piece of evidence. Like, say I don't know what a typical experience would be, but say I was out hiking in the woods or something, and I saw this black triangle fly overhead and hover for a while, and then turn around and then fly off again, something like that. If that happened to me, that would be extremely significant to the formulation of my beliefs and my attitudes to other people, because that's something that happened. I would question what actually happened at the time, but if you see something and you perceive it as being really happening, it's kind of difficult to interpret it as any other way than something actually happening. I might start to question my own sanity, perhaps, but it depends on what the experience actually was. If it seemed like absolutely real, then I'd probably go with it being real. I don't know. It's hard to say, not being an experiencer myself, what the effect would actually be. But it certainly would have an effect. And even if I thought that I just imagined the whole thing, or I had some kind of hypnagogic illusion or something, it would help me understand what other people were having, what was going on. Because I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if it was real or not. If something happens to you that seems impossible, you don't know if it's actually happened. So even if you suspect that you have some kind of hallucination, you can't rule out that something very real happened to you. And I'm sure, it would change my perception immensely if that happened.
Would you want it to happen?
Well, yeah, I would love to have a really interesting experience. I don't know about wanting something specific to happen, but would I like to, essentially see magic, or see some kind of epochal revelation in terms of our contact with aliens, or some kind of revelation of amazing technology? Yeah, that would be awesome. I think what you're getting at though is would I want it to happen and then no one believed me? And I could see that wouldn't be any fun. Would I like to be, given a glimpse at how the universe really works, and then no one's ever going to believe me? That would, I could see that would suck. I think it's a very hypothetical question, of course, but I can see that it does happen to people, because people who are experiencers have experienced something which to them, I don't know how much to you, seems to be a revelation that shows that there is more to the world than we have been told, and that science understands, or at least science lets on. And you feel, experiencers feel, that they've seen this thing, and then people don't believe them. And that's obviously it's going to be very frustrating, and it's going to make people very angry, and could lead to friction with people like me, who they see as an adversary, seeing as someone who is trying to prove them all wrong, which is not what I'm doing. I would be really happy to see evidence of something of that magnitude, that amazingness existing in the universe.
So, if you understand the people, and I'll be honest with you, I'm actually surprised by your answer. I didn't expect you to show that much empathy towards those who are having the experience, and you wanting to experience it for yourself. And I commend you for that. I looked at you saying that the wrong way. Okay, and I'm man enough to admit that. But for you, have you looked into the idea or the aspects of the mental anguish that people have going through this? I mean, there's a lot of people, it's like, for me, for instance, if I look at an experiencer, Mick, I don't look at somebody maybe seeing a few dots in the sky, whoa, look at that. I'm talking, whether it's living in a haunted house, whether it's, walking in the forest during a hike with your child, and you come across Sasquatch, or you see a UFO landing up close and personal, hovering over, near the ground or above your house or wherever. Never mind extraterrestrial contact as of yet. Have you looked at the emotional aspect of what this actually does to change people?
I can't say I've looked specifically at that. I do spend most of my time, looking at data, essentially. I do, I talk to a lot of people, though. I've talked to a lot of people who have experienced these things, and you get a sense of how what a deep effect it can have on people's lives. and they have an experience and it resonates through their entire life for decades. A lot of the people that I talk to are people who, they had something happen to them over 20 years ago, sometimes way back in the 70s or 80s. Something happened, and their lives, in a way, have been shaped by that one experience, and it becomes such a big part of them. And then, of course, you've got to deal with the ridicule of people and the ridicule of society. Every time you see it on TV and it comes up, the newscasters have a little giggle about these things, and I can see, even if it is just hallucinations or whatever, I can obviously see how that could affect people. But yeah, I haven't studied the psychology of what would happen, but I'm sure there's it'd be a sense of alienation.
It very much is
get from society.
But
also, in some ways, a sense of community with and solidarity with other people who have been through similar things. You get communities like UFO Twitter is just one example, but I'm sure you've seen the variety of groups that you have on Facebook, where people get together and they kind of share their experiences. But yeah, it's kind of. It's a world that I can't experience directly because I haven't had that experience, and I'm kind of doomed to be on the outside all the time because I'm a very evidence-based person, and I think it's pretty unlikely that these experiences represent things like aliens or advanced technology or something like that. But yeah, I certainly appreciate the significance of experiences to experiencers.
Have you put yourself in the position to get out in the field and study some of this phenomena up close and personal? Whether it's, let's take UFOs to the side a second, because you never know if and when they're going to show up. Some people claim that they can summon, but have you tested out on your own in the field a lot of these theories that maybe you're reading on, from your own studies, whether it's books or Google or whatever it may be?
Well, that's the thing, though. All these things that are super interesting, if they were testable, then science would have tested them. They would have gone out and done an experiment. They're elusive. These are elusive phenomena. UFOs are elusive. If you've got a person who is putting up a new UFO video every 2 days, they are not real UFOs. They're just videoing lights in the sky that are out of focus. I don't think there's a person out there who has such a powerful pull on UFOs that he can make them appear. And I think most people, if they do see a UFO, they're only going to see one, because they are elusive phenomena, even if they are, just some kind of, weird thing that happens to people sometimes. It's not something that generally happens a lot to people. So I can't go out there. What am I going to test? I got Skinwalker Ranch. Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, invited me to go to Skinwalker Ranch. I don't see much point in going there because there's nothing testable. It's a place where supposedly weird things happen. But what am I going to do? I'm go to Skinwalker Ranch, sit there for 3 days, and I'll hear some wild animals outside my tent or whatever, and then I'll come back. Brandon Fugel himself, he bought the ranch. He spent 2 months there, didn't see anything, and then he had some kind of experience. So it's because the various phenomena are very elusive, I'd love to be able to test them. And, whenever there is something that I can go out and test, I do it. I built a model of the Tic Tac. Here's my model of the Tic Tac, and I use it to test various hypotheses of, what the camera could have been doing to create certain effects, what it looks like from different angles, things like that. Yeah, I do things like that all the time. I go out and throw hubcaps in the air to try to replicate photographs. But can I go out and test ghosts? Is there a place where you can replicate the same thing over and over again so you can test what's going on? No. If there was, science would be there in a heartbeat. They would be going there and testing the shit out of that thing.
But there's a big difference.
It's not replicable.
But there's a big difference between testing and experiencing. What if you threw the tests aside and just said, look, I want to experience something. I want to experience something that people are calling phenomena, whether it's living in a haunted house or being in a haunted building or looking for Sasquatch and being in the middle of the forest where there's no trail whatsoever and you come across a 17-inch print or whatever it may be. What about just trying to experience the phenomena rather than test it?
But that is testing it. That is testing to see if it happens. Like if you say, this house is haunted. If you go into this house, strange things will happen. Yeah, you can test that by doing that. You can go into the house and you can see if strange things happen. If they do, Nobel Prize for you. This isn't what happens, though. If you say, like, Sasquatch, Bigfoot is real, and you can go into the forest and you can have an experience with him. You can't. There's no repeatable experience that you can actually have.
Understandable.
And going out and trying to do it, if that worked, people would be seeing it all the time. But do we have photographs of Sasquatch? No.
Well, there is a few videos, but I mean there
are, but
okay, but that's the same thing as going fishing. You're never going to catch a fish if you don't put a line in the water.
Oh, but you are. If you go fishing, you'll catch a fish. People go fishing all the time, and they catch millions and millions of fish every year. This isn't the same thing with ghosts. You can bring back the fish and you can eat it. You can take photographs of it. You can take a little video and release it back into the wild. We can't do that with ghosts. We can't do this with UFOs. We can't go out and say, yes, I would love to experience it. Set me up. Now, say you personally, Dave. If you wanted to set me up with an experience, where would you take me?
If you were up here with me, I know exactly.
Well, anywhere in the continental United States or the North America, say.
I think that you can't predict where the phenomena is going to happen. I agree with you on that. Okay, but if you're not putting yourself in that situation, you're not going to know.
But what situation, though?
Experience.
I'd love to. Where is it? Where do I go?
But to
where
experience the phenomena. That's what it's about, is experience.
Right.
And that's what experiencers are saying, man, is you can't predict when a UFO is going to come. Okay, you can't predict when there is going to be, a ghostly presence or anything like that. But when you're walking through the forest, you can't predict whether there's going to be a Bigfoot or Dogman or anything like that. But if all of a sudden you come across that piece of evidence, there's no humans walking around in bare feet in my area.
I'd be open to it.
That's all I'm saying.
But the thing is, you asked me earlier, would I go out and put myself, basically have an experience, and I would like to, but I don't see a place to go. I'm alone. When I'm alone in the house, more or less alone in this house, and it's dark. The lights are out outside, and it's gloomy. There's no ghosts popping out of the woodwork. It'd be great if there was, because that would be scientifically very interesting. I like going out and looking at the night sky all the time, but I don't see UFOs. What more should I do to try to maximize my opportunities for seeing some kind of experience? Because I would really like to do it, but I just don't think there's really like a way of going to the experience. It just happens to some people, and perhaps to some people more than others, but perhaps there are reasons for that aren't because they're in the right place. Perhaps they're just more, they perceive things in a different way, and they feel like they're having the experience. But I don't know. I would like to if someone could figure out a way for a replication, or even just making it more likely, like if I go into a graveyard, am I more likely to see a ghost than if I stay at home? There's a graveyard down the road from where I live. Should I go down there? I don't know. I'll probably get arrested, but...
I think it all depends, too, who you go with. I mean, because, the hard part about it is, we're about to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. The hard part about it is there's not a lot of talent out there. You know, everybody could claim to be a ghost hunter or a UFO hunter or a Sasquatch hunter, but do they really know where to look? Do they really know how to do it? Do they really know what they are doing? Because there's not a lot of scientists who are, like you said, who are conducting a lot of research. There's a lot of enthusiasts, and I think that is part of the drawback to what you were saying. Mick West is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to hit some audience questions. If you're in our YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, we're going to hit them up when we return on the mighty SOR, so stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Fantastic half hour, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's sure true. I mean, I would be perfectly happy to experience something. And the Skinwalker thing, if people want to pay money to send me the Skinwalker, then I'll take it. But I'm not going to spend $1,500 of my own money to go there when I think probably nothing will happen, because it didn't happen to the owner of the ranch for 2 months.
No, I understand that, but sometimes with this phenomenon, man, it is so weird, though, because you can't predict when it's going to happen or to whom it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some weird...
That's the problem, though.
I've seen some weird stuff, man, over the last number of years, which is why I ended up starting this radio show. And if I could explain it, and I think with journalism there comes a sense of skepticism because, you're always getting fed a bunch of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be able to see through that bullshit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, with journalism, I've had stories written about things that I've been involved in, and whenever that happens, you get to see just how terrible the media is in relating reality. And they don't usually understand most of the stuff they're writing about, and they get it wrong all the time. It's just kind of glossed over. So I see what you're saying with journalism and the media not being very good at
it's become clickbait.
Things.
It's become major clickbait, and that is part of the problem.
Most of it is,
I remember the shift. The shift happened up here in about 2003. I remember my news director, who I couldn't stand. I remember him saying, "We're not in the news world anymore. We're in the infotainment world." And I never thought...
That's a problem.
I always thought, that was a real asinine comment to make back in the day. But he ended up being very right with the way everybody's going. There are very few investigative journalists anymore,
Yeah, and it's a problem in not just regular journalism, like UFO stuff. People have to, they're selling a product, and you get people just promoting these ridiculous videos and on fake videos coming out, and
that's
these websites where it's full of ads.
Mm-hmm. But that's the problem, is you have a bunch of computer people who figured out YouTube. There's one channel with over 2.1 million subscribers. He doesn't care what he puts on, lets his audience decide, and, he's getting 39, 40, 50,000 clicks per video. And then he's raking in the money over that, right?
It's and there's the old saying, a lie goes twice around the world before the truth gets its boots on. And now that's more like the clickbait YouTube video gets 1 million views and the debunking one gets 1,000, which is about the ratio I've seen.
Oh, yeah. I understand that. I understand that all too well. The problem, one of the problems that I have with this field is you can be anything that you want. If all of a sudden I say I'm a paranormal investigator, guess what? I'm a paranormal investigator. And then I hide behind the word science, that I'm creating scientific experimentation. Bigfoot is the same way. UFOs, I mean, in this field, we see everything from fake scientists to fake journalists to anybody who could pad their resume in order to get that next conference or that next visual on a documentary or a television show. That's what it's all about. It's about, people who, want to be on television, get that 15 minutes of fame. Right?
Yeah, and it creates a problem because you don't know what's genuine. If there's so much kind of either just fake stuff floating around, but also people just putting a certain spin on things for sensationalism rather than investigation purposes.
Absolutely. Well, let's see here. I'm way behind in my chat room right now. I'm just trying to get caught up here, saying hello to people. We've got about, 25 seconds. Thank you to all the super chatters tonight. G. West, Jules, Ben, Daryl, Jason, Carla, Alicia, Gary, Wreaking Havoc, Open Minded, Adam, 5900, and Flash Forward. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you're looking for SOR swag, because this is where I do pump it up, is go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, or if you're viewing on your computer, you can look right down at the bottom here and check it on out. Here we go with Mick West. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Mick West tonight. On the Mighty SOR, we are talking about skepticism, UFOs, and other phenomena of what is going on. His website, debunk.com. You can check him out right there. Mick, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to turn it over to the audience here for a number of questions. And let's start off with Vinny, who is asking, what happens, Mick, when you come across something that cannot be disproven? Will you stop your work and move on to something else?
Well, that'd be very interesting. It depends what it is, what the consequences of it not being able to be disproven. I suppose, like, if something can't be disproven, does that mean it has been proved? There's a thing, like, there's the old saying, you can't prove a negative. Let's say we saw this little white orb in the sky. Can I disprove that's an anti-gravity spaceship or an anti-gravity craft of some sort? I can't. So what do I do with that? I can't say I've proved that it is anti-gravity. I think if I can't disprove something, I would try to prove it, try to figure out what's actually going on. But I only move on when no more progress can be made. If it's interesting enough, I try to keep at things until I figure things out.
All right, another question here. This one comes from Kason Lee, who is in Sri Lanka. And we thank you, Kason, for tuning us in. Debunkers of everything, isn't that a little closed-minded?
Well, I'm not debunking everything in the sense that I think that everything is false. I debunk things that I find to be false. I can figure out that they are false and then demonstrate that. Now, if I can't, if I figure out something's true, I'll show that too. But because I'm mostly looking at topics that are somewhat esoteric, there is a lot of bunk in there, and so there's lots of material for me to investigate and then show whether it's true or not. I'm not a debunker who is an advocate. I'm not like the witness for the prosecution who is just trying to say that this person is guilty. I'm trying to figure out whether the person is guilty or not. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. If something is wrong, I'll point that out. If something is right, I'll point that out. So I'm not trying to debunk everything.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on here. Brazelhoff wants to know, do you subscribe to Jacques Vallée's theory that they aren't ET, but a phenomena that presents itself differently over different time periods?
Well, I don't think I do. I think Jacques Vallée's theory is more to do with entities from another dimension, essentially. That is essentially using UFOs as kind of a cover for their operations, as I understand it. I don't really follow it that closely. He thinks that the UFOs aren't what they appear to be, and there's actually something else. But it is, something that's transdimensional or something that's to do with collective unconsciousness. I kind of agree with it. Presents itself differently over different time periods, because I think that UFOs are something that is a whole number of different things, account for the various things that people are seeing. But I think Vallée's theory overall is kind of woolly, because it's more to do with trying to fit together thousands and thousands of different experiences that are different, and the only way he's been able to do it is by kind of saying they're all kind of hallucinations, they're all kind of projections from another dimension or something like that, which is kind of just almost like a cop-out. He's not really figured anything out. He's just come up with this kind of rather weird theory about what might be going on without any real evidence for that being that way, other than everything being different. So I think the short answer would be no.
Oh, okay, but isn't that what science is? Science is theory. And we have to figure out the theory.
Sure, but it's theory backed by... science isn't just theory. Science is observation. It's the formulation of hypotheses, or theories in the vernacular. What we call theories, scientists reserve that word for broader things. But a theory or a hypothesis, you try to figure out what's going on, and then testing. You test the experiments. You formulate experiments to test the hypothesis based on what's going on. And if it's not testable, then it's not really a very useful theory. It's not very useful hypothesis. You can't really do anything with it. You may as well just say, maybe this is all a dream. Maybe we're living in a simulation and these are glitches in the matrix. If it's not something you can actually test, that isn't really science. If it was science, you would be able to actually do an experiment. But I guess there's nothing wrong with being more imaginative, because it might lead to testable hypotheses. But what Vallee is talking about in terms of all these UFO experiences being some kind of cover for interdimensional entities, he hasn't presented any tests that could be performed to validate that, or even any real kind of statistical analyses of the different stories to validate that. It's just basically an excuse that he's come up with, a very convoluted excuse to explain why there are so many different accounts.
All right, Joe is asking, Mick, have you ever looked at the Patterson-Gimlin film? What is your opinion of that?
That is the Bigfoot film?
Yeah, from 1967.
Yeah, I think it's a guy in a suit. I don't really see anything that's physically impossible for it being a guy in the suit. It's just a big floppy thing with a guy, and he's got big shoes on which kind of extend out, so he has to walk in a weird way, swinging the arms around because he's acting. I think there was some guy who came forward who claims to be the guy in the suit. You don't know for sure whether it is him or not, but I don't see anything in the film itself that's inconsistent with it being a guy in the suit, and that seems like the most likely explanation.
What about the boobs?
You can attach boobs. I could attach a pair of boobs to myself right now if I wanted to. It wouldn't make me into a Bigfoot.
It sure wouldn't make you attractive either, no offense.
No, it certainly wouldn't.
G. West wants to know, are you surprised at the amount of attention the UAP topic has received recently with the Pentagon, Congress, and senators?
Well, I think people overestimate or get this perception of it as being more significant than it actually is. Like, we talk about this new UAP office as being passed by Congress, and like this old the UAP report from the DNI was passed by Congress, but Congress never voted on any of this. It was language that got inserted into bills that then got passed because it's like an omnibus bill and they have all these little things in. I don't think the amendment itself was even directly voted on. The Gillibrand amendment wasn't directly voted on. So most senators are not even really aware of it. And perhaps they are aware of it because UFO Twitter has been calling their office, but it's not really something that they've really given that much thought. And there isn't really this drive. I think what happened is largely down to lobbying efforts by essentially Chris Mellon and people around him, like Lou Elizondo, and the other people like Hal Puthoff and Jacques Belair, and people in the so-called invisible college of people who are working in academia and in government who have this belief in the phenomena and in the need for disclosure and who are working towards it. But I don't really think the Pentagon is turning its all-seeing eye upon the phenomena. I don't think that's really changed that much. I just think it's the result of this lobbying effort that has come to fruition, and now we'll see where that leads over the next 5 years.
Why spend the money on it if there's really nothing there?
They spend money on all kinds of stuff. They probably spend way more money on the relocation of lesser spotted ground owls than they're going to spend on this. They spend billions of dollars on certain things. The F-35 program itself, over its lifetime, is going to cost over $1 trillion, just the F-35 program, over its lifetime of maintenance and development and everything. That's like a year's budget, from a couple of years ago. Now budgets have got a bit bigger. But, it's a drop in the ocean, the amount of money they're actually going to spend on it. They spent that $22 million. That wasn't very much. I don't know if they'll even spend that much on the new office, because all it is basically an office for the collation of reports of UFOs and the formulation of procedures for reporting and data collection, and kind of like a clearinghouse for the various departments to organize their efforts, which is probably stuff that they've already been doing. It's not like the Navy ignores everything that flies into their airspace. Obviously, they look into these things when something flies close to the fleet. The first thought now is that it's going to be a drone that's going to be attacking them. So it's not as though they've been ignoring all this stuff before and they've suddenly started spending billions of dollars investigating it. I think it's a relatively small amount of money being spent on a relatively small office, which hopefully will produce some interesting information down the road.
Kim is wondering, do you believe military eyewitnesses are serial bad observers?
Well, it depends what we're talking about. Military people are trained observers, which means that they are trained to spot things and identify them. In the general sense, there's lots of different types of trained observers. If you search like the .mil domain for a trained observer, you'll see trained observer in this, trained observer in that. But what we're talking about is observing things in the air, like planes and things like that. Now, when people get trained to be trained observers, they're given these aircraft identification decks, I think they're called. And there's I was looking at it earlier today. It's this. I have it on my drive. It's like this huge document. It's called the FM 44-80 Visual Aircraft Recognition. You can download it off the internet, and it's just this big document that like lists all the possible things you might see in the sky and their capabilities and what they look like from different angles and things like that. That's what they're trained in observing. They're trained in looking at these aircraft and identifying them, but they're not trained in identifying tic-tacs. They're not trained in observing things that are non-Newtonian in the way that they move. They're not trained in estimating the size of an object that has no distinguishing features. So they're highly trained in observing planes and drones and things like that. But I'm not sure that skill set is incredibly useful when it comes to something that's entirely different. It might even cause problems, because if you're highly skilled in spotting a certain type of thing, like aircrafts and drones, you might end up kind of shoehorning your perception of things into that domain, into that set of possible things. And so you perceive things as being a certain size. Like the Tic-Tac, you perceive it as being the size of an FA-18 because that's what you're used to seeing. But did Fravor didn't have training on how to estimate the size of a Tic-Tac shaped object. So how did he do it? He just basically took what he knew already and tried to map that onto what he was seeing. So no, I don't think they are serial bad observers. I think most of the time the observations that they make are entirely accurate, because they're mostly looking at things that are things like planes and drones, things that they need to look at.
Yeah, but
when something comes along that doesn't fit in that, it's very hard to actually make an accurate observation.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, it's very easy to be able to tell the size of something if you're used to the size of something. I know this pen is 4 inches long.
It's in your hand, though.
Right, and
it's a pen.
If there's a Tic-Tac beside me that I'm flying by and it's the size of my aircraft, I'm pretty much going to know if it's 47 feet.
If you don't know how far away something is, you don't know how big it is. There's a bunch of interesting photographs of planes, and it looks like one plane is flying and the other plane is like flying right next to it, like the one's overlapping the other. But what they're actually doing is, like, this one plane is very big. It's like an A380 or something, an jumbo jet. And then the other one is a smaller one, like a 737. It's half the size. And so one is like 5 miles away and the other one is 2.5 miles away. But they look like they're in the same position because you don't know how big the plane is. And if that illusion can happen with planes, it can certainly happen with something that has no distinguishing features. Like, is this, if this just was hanging in space and it was sufficiently far away, more than like half a mile away, you wouldn't know if it was, something that was just like, 10 feet long, or if it was like an 80-foot long, like, propane tanker. Because you can't tell how big something is if you have no frame of reference, if you don't know how far away it is, or if you don't know anything at all about it, like how big do you expect it to be, or is there something next to it? This is this big because my hand is next to it. But if it's just in space and that's all you have, you can't figure out how big something is.
Alex wants to know, what's your thoughts on remote viewing?
I think remote viewing is something that should be testable. And whenever it has been done with sufficient scientific controls, and not just scientific controls, but also controls against trickery. A big problem is that when scientists study things that are a bit esoteric, they get fooled by people like, say, Uri Geller, who's a stage magician who can use these stage tricks to, just make things disappear and bend spoons and do things like that and pretend to read people's minds. We've all been to magic shows where people appear to read people's minds. They're not reading people's minds. They're using, some kind of trick, essentially, to make it seem like they are. And remote viewing, when it seems like it is working, is probably some kind of trick, or perhaps just, a lucky guess at that time. If it actually worked, you will be able to scientifically test it. And because it hasn't withstood rigorous scientific investigation, I don't think it actually works.
They've been trying it for decades. Apparently, they have not perfected it. So, we'll move on here. Big Willie is asking, Mick, do you understand that we are not operating on the same levels of physics as these things? the fear of being in a position to experience something that will challenge your worldview is weird, man.
Well, that'd be great. That would be great if that was true. You say you, Big Willie, are making an assertion that we are not operating on the same level of physics as these things. Now, how do you know that? I mean, how can you demonstrate that? You think that is true, and maybe it is. Maybe it is, but I wouldn't say I don't understand it. I understand that you're claiming that that is the case. Tic Tac supposedly moves by warping space-time, so it can move from one place to another without essentially passing between the intermediate space, or move by compressing everything and then expanding it. So you whoop, whoop. So yeah, I understand the various theories that people have put forward about different types of physics, but I don't agree that it is the case. And I'm certainly not afraid of that being discovered. That would be amazing. That would be awesome. Discovering the warp drive, we could colonize the galaxy. That would be just, it would be an epochal change in the course of human history, and I would just love for that to happen. Yeah, I'm actually, one of the things that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit is the fact that we are stuck on this little planet, and it's difficult to get off it. So I would really personally love it if we could have some kind of space drive that actually worked. That would be wonderful. So if we got to get it from the aliens, then bring it.
All right, let's go to Jonathan. Mick, it sounds like you're selling your product, which is debunking. Do you make money from your debunking?
I am losing money. And no, I would like to make money. Sure, but I have a book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole, which isn't really about UFOs. It isn't really about the supernatural. It's more about just kind of regular old conspiracy theories. It's about how to talk to people. And yeah, I made maybe a few $1,000s from that. It's not like a super successful book. Most books don't make very much money.
You mean you don't have a butler over this?
I get paid occasionally to appear on TV shows, and they'll pay you maybe about $500 for a day, and that happens less than a handful of times per year, so not very much. Other than that, I write a couple of columns, and I get paid standard rates for that. But no, I'm hardly making any money. When I was working in the video game industry, I was making millions of dollars, and I should have stayed in the video game industry if I wanted to make lots of money. And instead, I retired, and now I'm living off my savings essentially. And I'm not making any money at all in terms of a net profit from my debunking efforts. So
why do it?
I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. There's kind of two reasons, really. The stuff like this, the investigating UFO videos, I enjoy the kind of the puzzle aspect of it, the intellectual challenge, trying to figure out what's going on. I enjoy talking to people about it as well, like talking to you and other people who are in the field. It's just I just enjoy the interactions with people. But in the more general sense of investigating and debunking conspiracy theories, I think that's kind of good work in a way, because people do get stuck in these conspiracy beliefs, and it can end up hurting them as individuals. They can end up like being alienated from people around them because they start believing in some kind of weird, crazy conspiracy theory, like the extreme stuff like QAnon. There's those people in Dallas right now who are waiting for JFK to return. They've been at the site of the assassination, Dealey Plaza, for a few weeks now, chanting weird numerology stuff. And they've been sucked into a weird cultish conspiracy theory. And it can be very damaging to the individual. And in a broader sense, a systemic belief in conspiracies can be damaging to society, because people start distrusting science and distrusting government. Not that you should trust government all the time, but if you automatically distrust government, then when something happens like a national health emergency like the coronavirus, you get people who are conspiracy theorists who automatically say, well, the government must be lying to us about the vaccine, so I'm not going to take it, which can be harmful to their health. People die because they didn't get vaccinated. So I think it's good to try to increase the level of truth wherever possible, because it helps people, helps society, and if I can have fun doing it, that would be great.
Well, as long as you're enjoying yourself, we're going to continue with audience questions when we return from the break at the bottom of the hour. We have Mick West for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, and we appreciate him taking the time to break everything down with all of us regarding skepticism and UFOs, amongst other topics that are out there. And you know what? He hasn't dodged a question yet. He said he wasn't going to, and he's been a man of his word so far. Whether we agree, whether we disagree, that's all right. That's why we have the discussion here on Spaced Out Radio. And then at the bottom of hour number 3, it is Dave 101 time, and we're going to take a look at UFOs and the government. Good thing, bad thing, are the people getting screwed over the knowledge of UFOs? Stick around, a very busy hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up next.
Hey, space travelers.
All right,
this
Mick,
is John
we
Wright.
have about 6 minutes here. I'm just going to put your mics on mute. I'm going to just head out, take a bathroom break. I'll be right back, okay?
Me too.
All right. Be right back, people. down, Duck. Sorry about that, Mick. My dog decided he wanted to go outside, too. The beauty of having a studio in your home. Oh, I forgot to unmute mine. Sorry, Mick. My dog wanted to go outside, too. The beauty of having a studio in your home.
Yeah, I know. My dogs went out just before this, so they're good.
Yeah, my guy likes to go out and then come in. He likes to come in for work. So his work is laying down and falling asleep on the floor. Leaves the hard stuff to me.
Yep.
I really appreciate you doing this, Mick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. It's fun.
When we get to the break, at the bottom of the hour, I would appreciate just hold on until we get through into the break, and then I'll say a proper good night to you.
Alrighty.
I hope we've treated you with respect and dignity, like we try with all guests.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Except for those guys in the comments, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well,
just kidding.
It's an emotional topic. Emotional topic. All right. I want to say a big thank you tonight to... what do we got here? Surf Jer, one of our favorite veterans. Thank you so much, Surf Jer, for that super chat. Really appreciate that. Along with G. West, Jules, Ben, Daryl, Jason, Carla, Alicia, Gary, Wreaking Havoc, Flash Forward, 5900, Adam, and Open Minded Clarity. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. Big thank you to everybody tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you are new. We would greatly appreciate it. And once again, thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in. You always have a safe home in our chat room. And G. West, thank you for the super chat. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yantra. Yantra is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, Mick West is here, skeptic of UFOs, and just trying to get to the answers of what is going on this Earth. No, not the hyperbole, but the true answers. Is he successful? Well, that depends on what you believe. His website, debunk.com, if you want to check it on out. We highly appreciate you doing that. Mick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an incredible show so far.
Yeah, it's been fun and interesting so far.
All right, let's continue with some audience questions here. Vash is asking, Mick, what do you think of experiencers that have the exact same experiences as others?
That's a very interesting question, and I suppose it depends on what the actual experience actually is. I mean, if it's something like seeing a TR-3B flying triangle, then perhaps there's certain things that cause that to be seen. I mean, maybe there's actual TR-3Bs flying around, or maybe they see the same type of plane, like I think as a DC-9 has lights on the front and each end of the wing and a red light in the middle, and it looks like a flying triangle. But more interesting than that, there's I used to have sleep hallucinations, like sleep paralysis and these hallucinations, and I would fall asleep and I'd see this giant spider descend from the ceiling. And lots of people have that exact same experience. They have this same hallucination of giant spiders descending from the ceiling. My wife has the exact same thing. She doesn't have it. She's not had it for years either. But we both would occasionally have the exact same experience. Not at the same time, but we would have the same experience, like a giant spider descends from the ceiling towards me, and I jump out of bed and turn the light on, and I'm looking for the spider. And there's probably people in the comments section here that are watching or just watching who have had similar experiences. And I think there are certain kind of just things to do with the human brain where people end up experiencing things the same way. People who take DMT often describe having very similar experiences of talking to like a little grey elf-like man or something like that. And why are they all having this same experience? Could it be they're breaking through to a new level of reality? Or could it just be that's the way the brain is wired? And that, when you take a certain chemical or a certain thing happens to you, you perceive things in the same way. So, it's a very interesting question, and a lot would depend on, what you're actually talking about. But there's lots of interesting possibilities.
All right, let's get to another question here. And this is from Nicole. What do you think about the Betty and Barney Hill abduction then?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they were abducted, and I don't think that the things that they described happened to them. I don't know whether they made it up or whether it was just some combination of things. I was reading Richard Halprin's book. What was it called? I can't remember now. But it's got a book where he described it as being some kind of, generational racial trauma coming to the front and manifesting itself as an abduction scenario, which seems a bit ridiculous to me. But maybe they were a mixed race couple, and people hypothesize about the stress that can put on them and how that could have been related to what the experience actually was. But I have no idea. All we've got to go by is their account, and there's no real physical evidence of what actually happened to them. So I think it's unlikely that what they described actually happened, but I don't know the reality of the situation.
Your thoughts on Rob Newman and CE5 from Ian over in the UK?
I do not know who Rob Newman is. I know what CE5 is, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which I guess is you summoning people or having some kind of communication with the aliens. And of course that's typified by Stephen Greer's camps, where you pay money and get a CE5 experience. I think probably most of that is people really wanting to have an experience. And if you really want to have an experience, you're going to end up having it. And some of that where it's an organized thing, like Stephen Greer's thing, there may be some kind of deliberate misperception where they either put the people in a position where they're going to see things like military flares or drones or whatever, or the people could even fake these things. It wouldn't be that hard to, especially now, get 3 drones and have them whiz around in the sky and make sure everybody gets value for money when they go on a CE5 retreat. But I don't know who the other guy was, so I can't really comment on that.
All right, Arlene and a couple other people have asked in the chat room, have you ever investigated a conspiracy theory that turned out to be true?
Well, not really. The thing is, there's a terminology issue here. For something to be a conspiracy theory, it has to be something that isn't known to be true to start out with, and then for that to be discovered to be true. Now, there are lots of things that we can say are like conspiracy theories that are true, like say the Iran-Contra scandal, where Oliver North was selling arms to Iran to finance the Nicaraguan Contra-revolutionaries to have some kind of civil war down there. That was a big conspiracy. Perhaps went all the way to the top with Ronald Reagan. But was it a conspiracy theory? It's not like people were making YouTube videos. Not that there were YouTube videos about it, but no, I haven't there are obviously lots of conspiracies that are real, and that's, I start my book by saying conspiracies are very real, of course. There's loads and loads of conspiracies, obviously. You just look at any criminal case. It's essentially a conspiracy, and there's lots of corruption within government and lots of all these kickbacks and lobbying and things like that, which are essentially corruption, and big business like conspiring to make money and change legislation and things like that. So conspiracies are real, but I haven't personally investigated something that turned out to be a real conspiracy that wasn't really already known to be a real conspiracy.
All right, let's move on with some audience questions here, because I know they are kind of building up here and continuing on. Man, can't believe how active our answer is here. Phil is asking, what made you debunk the chemtrail program? A little bit off topic.
Well, I kind of touched on that earlier. Like, I was learning to fly at the time, and so I just did a little bit of studying on aviation weather. And I'd been flying around the airspace, so I've been looking up planes a lot, and I just kind of came across it on Wikipedia, and someone had made a page on the Wikipedia about chemtrails, and I thought it would be a fun thing to write blog articles about. So I just started my contrail science blog and went from there. I just found it really interesting.
What do you need from the U.S. government to come out and say you think there are visitations happening here? Because lately, as we know, there's a lot of attention going into this. The Gillibrand Rubio files and reports just got passed into government where they are going to be investigating unidentified aerial phenomena. What's your opinion on the government getting involved with this?
I think they're going to basically reveal some real issues, like things like why pilots are seeing unidentified objects, like stuff like airspace clutter and things like drones going into airspace and balloons, things like that. We might discover that there's some Chinese drones spying on us, things like that, and we might discover some new things about radar, things of that nature. I think it's unlikely that we'll discover anything earth-shattering in the sense that a lot of the UFO community is hoping, like some kind of anti-gravity drive or some kind of alien presence. But I think there's obviously lots of real issues in the UAP phenomena, particularly around drones and foreign drones in particular, and that things will be discovered. It'll be very interesting.
All right. Do you believe then, as Mr. Catfish asks, that there is potential life on other planets?
I do. I don't have a real good sense of how common it is throughout the universe, and I know that there are estimates that verge from like 1 in 10 planets to 1/10 of a planet per galaxy. There's just huge ranges of how likely people think intelligent life in particular is. Like microbial life is probably not a big deal. There's probably lots of that. But intelligent life, and especially civilization, very difficult to get a solid estimate as to how common that is. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's other civilizations in this galaxy.
Square Hammer is asking, how do you explain military radar tracking objects traveling at thousands of miles per hour, then immediately making a 90-degree turn?
I don't have a good explanation for that. There's really only two plausible explanations. One is that there was an actual object that was doing that, and the other is that there's some kind of inaccuracy in the radar. Perhaps it's tracking like two different objects at the same time and getting confused between them. Perhaps it's an entirely false return. Perhaps it's a bug in the software, or perhaps there's an actual craft doing that thing. But these are usually one-off things. If we had two entirely independent radars giving the exact same track on something, that will be very significant. But we don't. We just see that from single radars in that level of detail.
So do you think that those craft that are making these 90-degree turns or high G-force turns are human-made and manned, or do you think that there are... No?
No, I think the most likely explanation from what I know, from what I've looked into, is that they are problems with the radar, and they're not actually craft that are doing these things. It depends on what we're talking about here. if it's just something that goes at 500 miles per hour and makes a 1 mile radius turn, then that's one thing. If it's something that's going at 5,000 miles per hour and stops in a tenth of a second and then changes direction, then that's something that's probably a radar glitch. And there may be a little gray area in the middle where there are some new craft that are a lot more maneuverable than we think. But there are things that are so extreme that they can only be essentially alien technology or some kind of radar glitch. And the radar glitch thing seems more likely because it only ever shows up on single radars.
So do you believe then that, if you go back to the early 1990s when Ben Rich of Lockheed Martin said, we have the ability to get ET home again, which he's, many people believe he said in jest, the fact that we're 80 years ahead, or the government and these black op companies are 80 years ahead in technology from where they showed. Do you put any stock into that?
No, I don't. I don't think that the military is that far ahead. When we see things that are revealed by the military, like the U-2 or the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber B-2, they're got some novel things in them, but it's not the kind of paradigm shift that people are talking about. And science and technology generally progresses incrementally. I mean, it always progresses incrementally. The transistor that we have in our computers now that runs everything, that started out as being this big bulky thing, and then it took many, many years for it to even get down to the small size of the integrated circuit. And now that we have a billion or a trillion transistors in a square inch, but that took 50 years to do it, and it was an incremental thing. Even though it's a revolution, the fact that we have semiconductors doing these amazing things, it's not something that happened overnight. It took a really long time, and it's really not something that you could hide away for 70 years whilst you gradually develop this technology. I mean, how are you going to gradually develop something in secret? It doesn't really work unless it actually is out there and it's being used. So I don't think there is this secret track of government military technology that's 50 years ahead of us. And in a lot of cases, is actually behind because they have to use reliable technology rather than the cutting-edge stuff.
All right, Post-Disclosure World is asking, Mick, are you in the midst of working on a UFO book?
Only in my head, I'm afraid, Ryan. It's something I'd like to do at some point, but I haven't put a pen to paper yet.
So it's something that you will eventually delve into?
I certainly hope to, yes.
In a UFO book, what would you want people to know?
I think a lot of what we talked about here, the UFOs represent a very diverse field. Lots of different things contribute to the phenomena, and that people who investigate UFOs are whether they are debunkers like myself or investigators or experiencers, they're all essentially looking for the same thing, is that we're all trying to figure out what's going on. And there's lots of interesting things going on in terms of looking at the physics and the little puzzles. And then there's interesting stuff going on with the people. And there's interesting stories there too, like what's going on with Chris Mellon, what's going on with Lou Elizondo. These are interesting stories, and I think you can kind of weave everything together and make a very kind of interesting story.
Two-part question here before we get to our next one. Is there a UFO case that you have interest in that really kind of pushes even your own envelope? And number two, I'll ask number two in a second. Let's get to that one first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could say the Nimitz case with David Fravor's encounter is something it's very interesting and difficult to explain if he saw what he said he saw. And he's, one of the most well-regarded and more compelling witnesses. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that's just, like dodgy radar returns or blurry videos, it's not particularly that compelling, not particularly that interesting. So really the really interesting stuff does end up being these cases like the Nimitz case, especially where you have more than one witness. So if I could pick one case where I would like to see exactly what's behind the curtain, what's actually going on there, I think I would pick the Nimitz case because it's been very frustrating in a number of aspects, and it would be great to get some resolution to that. And I don't know, maybe the new UAP office might let some things slip at some point.
Well, that's hopeful. That's hopeful. I don't know if we will get anything. But my second part about this is, with Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo, if the phenomena isn't already here, why do you think they have been pushing for this type of disclosure or confirmation regarding the reality of this subject on this planet? If it isn't here, it seems like a grand waste of time.
Well, I think they think that it is. They've been fairly direct in saying that they think that the extraterrestrial hypothesis or some kind of non-human intelligence hypothesis is what is behind these things. They've been fairly explicit in saying that there's no human technology that could do what they think that they are seeing. So they have been convinced, and I think this has happened to like a bunch of people, is that you listen to David Fravor and you become convinced. You get shown these videos and you have someone walk you through them and say how amazing they are, and you get convinced. And I think Chris Mellon has become convinced, and I think Lou Elizondo has become convinced, and I don't know entirely what their motivation is, but I think it's driven by a belief that essentially aliens are behind these things flying around in the sky, and they believe it's important to get that information out to people.
If that information is correct, and considering the insider sources and areas that they would have access to that information, should we not put more belief and stock into what they are saying?
No, I don't think so, because from my interactions with them, I haven't talked directly with Chris. I've exchanged a few Twitter messages with him. But I have interviewed Lou Elizondo, and I've seen extensive interviews with both of them. I don't think they've really demonstrated a sufficient technical grasp of the evidence to make that determination themselves. So I think they themselves have been convinced by a variety of things. I mean, possibly just like the testimony of people like David Fravor and other people. Possibly they've seen some other videos, but Mellon doesn't say. He says there's nothing more compelling than the gimbal video, and I don't think the gimbal video is that compelling. So sure, you would think they would have seen more, but just the indications that they've given from their understanding of what's out there, the Navy videos, doesn't really show a deep understanding of what those videos are actually showing. And so why should we believe them about other videos that they might have seen?
All right, we're coming down to about the last 90 seconds here. I'm going to fire off Greg's question. Do you believe in a God? And if so, can you prove it?
I don't think there's any compelling evidence of a God. If someone wants to bring that evidence out, then I'd be happy to have a look at it. But I don't have a belief in God, no.
All right, my friend, we got 1 minute to go here. I want to say a big thank you to you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Very much appreciate you and your answers and your candor on our show tonight. It was the first time we've had you on, and I think that you did very well. Do us a favor. Tell all our listeners where they could find your book, your information, your websites.
Sure. You can. I'm on Twitter a lot, so you can go to @Mick West on Twitter. I'm there. My website is metabunk.org, or you can just Google Mick West, and I'll crop up. And I'm @Mick West on pretty much every social media platform. And my book is called Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and you can find it wherever books are sold.
Wow, man. I cannot believe how fast this show went by. This was a good one, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us as we get ready for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming after this. So if you want some entertainment, follow Mick West on Twitter, @Mick West, and we really appreciate Mick coming on the show tonight, giving us a different look at ufology overall. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, it's Dave 101. We're going to take a look at the government looking into UFOs. Is it good for us? Is it bad? Are we getting enough? Will we get any answers? Followed by Shirky Poo's news, and we'll go from there. Final half hour Spaced Out Radio coming up next. Mick, thank you so much for a great show. Appreciate that. Give you a few claps there.
Very interesting, and a nice bunch of questions from the audience there.
I think so. I think I hope we did you well, and I know that some of the questions were tough and challenging, but I hope that we did you well.
No, yeah, everything seemed fair, and it's all good. So, and if anybody has any follow-up questions, I see G West is asking again, is Mick writing a new book on UFOs, which I already answered, and I am thinking about it, but I haven't started writing one. But yeah, if anybody wants to hit me up, my DMs are open on Twitter, or you can just email me, and I'm always happy to talk. I'm a bit busy right now, but I'll try to get back to people as quickly as possible.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
All right.
And
you take care.
A good last half hour.
All right. Take care, Mick. All right, Mick West, everybody. And you know what? I was very, very happy and impressed with the high quality of questions. I apologize that I did not get to them all. I was way behind in the chat room tonight due to the amount of questions. So if I skipped yours, it was not on, well, technically it was on purpose because I was just trying to catch up. Please don't hold it against me. Let's say a quick hello to Gorgeous Coral for showing up in here in the third hour. Who else do we have coming on in? Because I'm still 15 minutes behind in the chat room here. Let's see here. Who else do we have that we could say hello? April, May, June, looking lovely tonight. Thank you for joining us from Vancouver Island. Low Pro, nice to see you. And let's go on here. Eddie Haskell, nice to have you back. Skip to Malou. And the gorgeous Purpose and Grace. Crunch Time, good to have you here. Adam Robbins, thanks for coming on in. And Post Disclosure World, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you so much for that awesome super chat. I really appreciate that. So appreciate your hard work as well. And let's see who else we have here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get caught up, everyone. I'm not one of these people who just hits the new comments and goes right to the bottom. This is true, Chad Smith. That is very true comment right there. Thank you so much. And let's go here. GF. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate you coming on in. Thank you. And I think I'm almost caught up here. Idaho Potatoes, how you doing, buddy? Terrible Times, nice to see you. The gorgeous Teresa. Bim Jim, thank you for joining us. I shaved because my clippers cut too close. I was giving myself a trim, and it got ugly real fast. Real fast. So I screwed it up. I'm not going to lie, I'm not perfect. And let's see here. Let's go there. I just got to grab some news here from Shirky Poo. We got about 1 minute here. All right. Thank you so much to Post Disclosure, Phil, G. West, Surf Jer, G. West again, Jules, Ben, Daryl, Jason, Carla, Alicia, Gary, Wreaking Havoc, Flash Forward, 5900, Adam, and Open Minded Clarity for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate you taking the time to support Spaced Out Radio that way. Don't forget you can get your SOR swag coming up here on our website. And hello, gorgeous Kim Jelvin. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, let's check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Here we go. We got the government dropping the gloves with the military-industrial complex on UFOs, and it has been a very, very good battle. The Pentagon coming out of their corner saying, look, guys and gals, we don't need you to look into UFOs because we got this covered, we got this handled, and by the way, if you don't want, or if you want some information, don't worry, we're not going to give it to you. The government side, led by Kristen Gillibrand and Marco Rubio, says, hold on a second here, military-industrial complex. We do want to know. We want to have a say. Because the American public put us in that position to find out what the heck is going on with these UFOs. It's been quite the battle. And recently, Senator Gillibrand's groundbreaking UAP amendment made it to the final NDAA. This is big news. This is great news. But is it going to help the public? Now, Senator Gillibrand is quoted as saying on her website, our national security efforts rely on aerial supremacy, and these phenomena present a challenge to our dominance over the air. Staying ahead of UAP sightings is critical to keeping our strategic edge and keeping our nation safe. My amendment will establish a formal office to report and respond to UAPs and give us the scientific capabilities needed to track and share data, investigate sightings, and develop a response to this growing security threat. Here we go with the threat again. She goes on to say, the United States needs a coordinated effort to take control and understand whether these aerial phenomena belong to a foreign government or something else altogether. I am proud to have worked alongside Congressman Gallego, including this amendment that will help remove the stigma surrounding UAPs, protect our nation, and keep those who serve safe. It is my hope that the creation of a new joint department in the Defense and Intelligence Community Office focused on UAPs will provide the resources, analytics, and attention needed to determine what is loitering around our military training ranges. The DoD and the IC need to ensure a more uniform collection strategy is in place and that we continue to destigmatize reporting on UAPs, particularly from military aviators. Significantly, we also maintain the transparency and accountability that my provision in last year's Intelligence Authorization Act report provided by ensuring ongoing unclassified reporting. What is missing out of here? I want you to think about this largely here. What is missing? It is you, the public. Now, for the first 4 years since the New York Times article, all we have heard is threat phenomena, threat. But recently, over the last few months, we're not hearing about threats. We're hearing about potential extraterrestrial craft. That goes along with technology. That goes along with potentially crash retrievals. But we're not hearing about public accountability. This is what ufology needs. This is what we want. Hey, this is a great step forward. Don't kid yourself. This is a phenomenal step forward on both the Pentagon side, even though they want to keep it secret, and on Gillibrand's side, which deals with the threat phenomena. However, what about the public? Look, things have been happening previous to 2004. I'm pretty sure Senator Gillibrand knows about this. What about public sightings, public phenomena, public recordings? Never mind extraterrestrial abduction. We'll keep that one right out. But the fact that this does go backwards in a way, if we scrutinize it, it's difficult to understand that after we waited so long for the threat phenomena to disappear, that now it is enacted once again. If these craft, whether it's tic-tacs, black triangles, boomerangs, saucers, whatever you want to call them, are from an extraterrestrial intelligence, we have to understand a couple of things here. Number one, this isn't about the military. It's about the entire world and every person, animal, and mammal on it. Number two, if these extraterrestrial craft are from outer space, another dimension, from the future, wherever they may come from, and they have the technology to get here, do you really think they are scared of our primitive nuclear weapons to keep them at bay from taking over this planet? Look, there have been reports all throughout history of UFOs and potential ET contact. I really highly doubt that some extraterrestrial force would come to this planet and say, you know what, we are going to wait until they can fly in the sky before we take this planet over. No, they would have done it when our greatest weapons were bow and arrows, spears, rocks. Yeah, they would have done it then. We have not been taken over. I don't think any extraterrestrial phenomena is a threat. Look, there could be a looming threat. Let's not be, ridiculous on this. We don't know. And anything we don't know under the military is considered a threat. We have to remind ourselves of that. But so far, we haven't had any alien species coming down like Independence Day or the television series V coming down to eat us humans, to take us over, make us slaves of the universe. Hasn't happened yet. Heck, we've seen more of that happen with our own population than we have extraterrestrials. So it is ridiculous that this plays the threat phenomena, and it's all about the military once again. What about airline pilots? What about private pilots? What about people sitting on their patio who eyewitness something? What do they do? If we want transparency in this subject, there's nothing so far that I have read about this bill that shows that it's transparent. Now, others may disagree with me, and that's okay. Then others will sit there and say, look, Dave, before you can round all three bases and head for home, you need to get to first base first. And that's exactly what we've done. The fact that this is now part of law in Washington, D.C. is a good thing. But how does it help people? How does it help the person who is in their living room afraid to go to bed at night because visitors may come over again and say hello? We haven't addressed that. To me, this bill still segregates UAP from the extraterrestrial phenomena, which doesn't really make sense considering recently, out of the Pentagon and out of NASA, we have heard some major people start using the word extraterrestrial. So which way are we going to have it here? It seems like we are running around in circles. Is it a threat? Is it not a threat? Is it extraterrestrial or is it of this world? Now, if you've noticed, over the last number of months, both Chris Mellon and Luis Elizondo have really eliminated the words Russia and China from their vocabulary when talking publicly about this phenomena. Why do you think that is? It's because they know it's not from here. Those in the know on this subject already know that they, whatever and whoever they are not from Earth. And we have to open up our minds, and our lawmakers need to open up their eyes and realize that this isn't about the United States military. It isn't about the threat. It's not Russia. It's not China. Somewhere in a cave in Afghanistan, the Taliban have not built Tic Tacs. No, this is from somewhere else. Where that someone else is, can be debated. It could be debated that it's from Earth, from another time, from a different dimension, maybe from the future and time travel, or, in my opinion, the likelihood, outer space. We haven't been taken over. We haven't had any instances of being taken over. We need to wake up to that fact. And when you use the threat phenomena narrative, all you're doing is creating more secrecy. The UFO community is tired of secrecy. We're done with it. And granted, we are the minor yet vocal few who have put pressure on our senators, on our congresspeople, up here in Canada where I am. Many of us have tried getting a hold of politicians saying, what do you know about this? This is real. Stop trying to beat behind a bush and treat us as if we are stupid. Every day there are people on this planet who are having some sort of phenomena happen. Could be UFOs, Could be ET contact. Maybe it's Bigfoot in the forest or mermaids in the ocean. We are seeing things. We are reporting things. We are doing our jobs in trying to find the answers by adding to the stories that so many over the centuries have seen and told before. We're not a stupid race. We may get things wrong because we are not perfect, but we as the public are not stupid. We know what we've seen. We know what we've interacted with. We know when we see something anomalous where 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. Yet, the opinions expressed do not matter. They tell us, keep reporting, keep letting people know. Report what you've seen to your police, to your congresspeople, to your senators, to your politicians, elected officials, and whomever. Yet what's it all about? What do we get out of it? When is this about us, the public, and not about the military? Not about military threats, not about military engagements with the phenomena. Because if government and government officials like Gillibrand only think this is happening to the military, boy, do they have this all so wrong. We, as the vocal minority, need to keep up our voices. We need to keep up the fact that we actually do know what's going on. We do know what's happening. And we do know what we've seen. We may not be as accurate because, once again, humanity does make mistakes. There are many Sasquatch reports out there that turn out to be black bears or grizzly bears. We're not perfect. How many UFOs have we seen reported over the last couple of years that are the Starlink satellites or the International Space Station or rockets flying by from SpaceX? We are all amateurs when we stare up in the sky. But we sure do know when we see a black triangle hovering over our house at 1,000 feet or less. We sure do know when we have strange markings appearing on our bodies that were not there the night before, whether it's scratches, little red dots in the shape of a triangle, or something a little bit more sinister. We know ourselves. And because we know ourselves, we need to keep up the pressure and keep being loud about real transparency. Because right now, we don't have any more transparency today with the new laws enacted in the United States than we did fighting to get the politicians to open up to this topic. And that is this week's Dave 101. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, all provided by the lovely Shirky Poo. All right. During a ghostly investigation at a key church, which is close to Truro, Cornwall, England, a paranormal team filmed what appeared to be a ghostly face. The Cornish Ghost Whisperers team was at the supposed haunted church doing a live investigation when the alleged ghost face was staring at them through a window. Oh, that's kind of creepy. Yet team member Candace Collins explained what happened. She says, I've heard from a couple of people that it's haunted, particularly inside the church. When we did a live investigation down there and started wandering around the building and we could see a face up at the top, we were filming. I just happened to film up, looking up towards the window, and we saw something looking out. It was about 10 p.m. at night. She added that the face appeared about for 1 or 2 minutes, and it was creepy, to say the least. It was quite freaky, actually, because the face in the window just doesn't look human. It just looks like something else. but it was clearly there, and I could slightly see it moving, so something was watching us from the window. Now, the ghost face wasn't their only paranormal encounter that night, as they captured a disembodied voice on their ghost box. It is believed that they communicated with a female entity, as she allegedly told the team her name was Catherine. Wow. So, what did this thing look like? Well, let's see. Looks like an owl. Not gonna lie. It looks like an owl. I debunked it. I Dave Wested it. Dave West. Sorry, Mick. Didn't mean to step on your toes there. Okay, moving on. A pilot was joined by more than just another commercial airline flight over the Pacific during a recent trip, what he believes was an entire fleet of UFOs. The video, which has been seen all over, has believed to have been recorded in the last few weeks, shot between 9 and sometimes up to 12 bright objects. You can see some of the lights up and dim at random periods, but their pacing and speed seem to remain constant. This happened at about 39,000 feet. You can hear the pilot on the video say, "Well, that is some weird poop." Using a different word, that is something flying. Yet doubters believe the lights could be anything from anti-missile flares shot from another plane or even a ship below, but there's no proof yet to support either cause. Here's an interesting one. A day of Christmas decorating didn't go as planned for a woman who was attacked by a raccoon that left her with bites and bruises all over her arm. The less than festive raccoon really got the ire of Massachusetts resident Donna Sanguinario. She goes, "I really thought I was going to die." Sanguinario detailed how the animal pounced on her as she was putting up Christmas lights around her home on December 1st. The 70-year-old woman said, "The only warning that she got before the attack was a strange noise coming from the street. I turned around to see what the noise was, and I was staring at a huge raccoon about 10 feet away. Before I could do anything, it jumped at me. Worst nightmare of my life. Both me and the raccoon were screaming so loud. This was a pay-per-view brouhaha. Let me tell you this. Once the animal fell silent, Sanguinario said she let it go of it, only to let it get up and walk away." Yeah, she definitely used some sort of wrestling move in order to get this. I'm going to vote for the fact that she probably copied The Rock, did the rock bottom, then the people's elbow. Raccoon didn't know what was happening. It was tumbling to the ground. Here she go. She got him in a headlock. Wouldn't let it go. As he was biting, I could hear the bones breaking in his neck. Oh, Camel clutched him too. And then, once she was all done, she hooked the leg, pinned it for the 3 count, and the raccoon had to put its tail between its legs and walk home without its dignity, as it just lost a wrestling match to its 70-year-old opponent. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the awesome news. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in for the Thought of the Dave, and to our guest tonight, Mick West. Thought of the Dave. Dave 101. Dave 101. And Mick West, who was absolutely awesome. And you, the audience members, by the way, with some amazing questions for him tonight. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Let's wrap this thing up, shall we? We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.